On today's episode, we're going to be documenting the process that mountaintop water takes to get to your faucet. We're also going to be contrasting daily urban consumption versus the consumption of a developing nation. How does New York City get its water? From here. Through here. Then through here. Finally, to here. New York City water. From mountaintop to apartment tap. New York City has an incredibly unique water supply system. It has about 19 reservoirs, all of which are located about 100 miles away from the city. The Catskill water supply system is comprised of two main reservoirs. The first one is the Schoharie, and the second one is the Ashokan, which we have right here. At full capacity, the Ashokan can hold about 122.9 billion gallons of water. On the water's long journey to the city, many of the microbes die naturally. When it arrives, it is treated with both chloride to kill the remaining organisms and fluoride to prevent tooth decay. All this happens before it even gets to your tap. Underground New York is an intricate system of wires and pipes. There's the high voltage power lines, the telecommunications lines, the gas lines, the sewer lines, and of course the water lines.
Water mains are usually down with the steam mains. They're usually about the same depth, or sometimes they're, like if it's here, it's higher. Our steam main over here is 18 feet deep. This water main, you can see it's shallow. It's only 4 feet cover. This project, we're actually raising the steam main because right now it's below the water table. We want to raise it. So over here is going to be about 2 feet cover. That means from the top of the street to the top of the steam main is 2 feet. Then it goes across the street, it's going to go probably like maybe 10 feet deep, but it's going to be above the water table so we won't have a situation with a water condition. Like actually in the intersection, there's a 60-inch water main that went across. Pretty big.
The Croton water system is the oldest dam controlling the flow from 12 reservoirs and 5 lakes. That's about 370 square miles of the Croton River drainage basin. We're here at the Tenement Museum, built in 1863, where people used to live in New York without hot water or even indoor plumbing.
Tenements like this one were often cold water flats. That meant they had no indoor hot running water. This building didn't get any running water at all until the late 19th century, and this was cold water. It was the only water source for the entire building. This building is 5 stories tall. There's 4 apartments on each floor. That's about 20 different families who are using a single water supply. Women who are taking water upstairs to do their cooking or drinking would have a smaller bucket that they would have to carry. Let's say you're on the 4th floor. You got to walk all the way down, fill up the water bucket, walk all the way back up, and maybe do that several times per day. It's very heavy, which is interesting to keep in mind. I mean, it's something like 20 pounds for a full bucket of water. Behind me, you can see our recreated privies. Inside are the toilets. After 1848, New York City's water comes from the Croton Aqueduct, and it's very clean and clear. And this is a really big improvement over former times when people were drinking well water, which was easily contaminated.
The water originally came from the Croton River up in Westchester, about 38 miles north of New York City. So then the water came all the way down through tunnels and aqueducts to this current site. Of course, then the water went down from the Great Lawn Reservoir, the lower reservoir, down Fifth Avenue to the reservoir that's now on the site of the public library.
What is now the main building for the New York Public Library was once the Croton Reservoir located in Midtown Manhattan. We're actually looking at the old foundation of what used to be the Croton Reservoir. They repurposed the old stone in order to make a foundation for the new library. In renovating the courtyard, the architect consciously chose to show the old foundation of the reservoir, as you can see from a bridge up above. You can see the old foundation as you come down the steps to the auditorium. But New York City quickly outgrew the old Croton system.
By 1917, they had refined the old Croton water system. The reservoirs are actually the most important part of Central Park's choice of its site, because initially the Great Lawn was a lower reservoir. We'll call this the upper reservoir. And they chose the site for the park because they thought, oh well, here was all this rocky and swampy land around the reservoir and the reservoir to be. This reservoir hadn't been built yet, but was going to be built. So they said nobody will ever want to live around these reservoirs. And so we'll just make that part the park. This is 1 billion gallons of water. And in 1842, when they opened the reservoir, they anticipated they needed 1 billion gallons of water to serve New York City for 2 whole weeks. And today, this reservoir would serve New York City for something like 4 hours.
Access to clean water was something that New Yorkers really fought for in the early part of the 19th century. Some of the problems that people here in New York faced at that time, like disease, things like cholera and typhoid and diphtheria, tuberculosis, those diseases are recurring in the developing world where people don't have access to clean water.
So next time you turn on your faucet, remember, not everyone has access to clean, potable water.